So Megapint is referring to Amber Heard's legal team assigning characteristics to Johnny Depp drinking wine. So when Johnny Depp was on the stand during the whole case that's been going on, the defamation case, the the lawyer was questioning Johnny Depp when he's on the stand, and he's like, "Oh, and you had a mega pint of wine," and Johnny Depp's like, "A mega pint? Like, what the fuck is that?" That was basically what he said. So it was just funny because they were just trying to like lead, you know how they go with questioning. They try to lead you into admitting something that you obviously didn't do. So the guy's like, "Oh yes," and you proceeded to have a mega pint of red wine, and Johnny Depp's like, "A mega pint," and the whole courtroom just started laughing. It was just like one of the highlights of the case. So I am your host, Megapint, this week. My name always changes, and by the way, I don't think you'll ever be able to guess what my name change will be in weeks to follow. And I like to keep it that way. I like to keep it fresh, keep it interesting, and I always like to make it something related to current topics. So
Yeah, I haven't seen much of that trial. What do you think about the trial? Have you been like following? Because I know it's like publicized, right? They have public trials going on, and it's on the news and shit.
yeah, absolutely. So they have cameras in the courtroom. There was this initial trial that happened years ago between them. Obviously, they dated and then married for some time in the past for quite a few years. So it's just very interesting because the whole situation is really complex, right? So Johnny Depp, um, for those of you who don't know, obviously, I mean, really, you kind of live under a rock if you don't know. But he was the main actor in Pirates of the Caribbean. He was a tremendous actor. Jack Sparrow is like easily one of the best Disney characters of all fucking time. Like easily one of the best in terms of like an actual live action type of movie. Now, what's interesting is that Johnny Depp married Amber Heard. They met on the set of some other movie. They married, and then she kind of came out years later with these accusations against him, saying that he was physically abusive towards her. And obviously, those are accusations not to be taken lightly. So at the time, Disney caught him, and they said, "Fuck it, we're done with the franchise," and they just wrapped it up and put a bow on it. Um, and his whole world kind of fell apart. Like he went from being one of the highest grossing actors of all time. He was reportedly making anywhere from like $20 to $40 million per film that he was in, which is fucking ridiculous. Because even if he had like such a minor role in it, he still was making like 20 million. There was one movie he was in, I forget which one it was. I think it was like Alice in Wonderland or something. He had like a super minor role, like maybe in like a 2.5 hour film, he had like 15 to 20 minutes of screen time, and he made 20 million for that movie, which is crazy because that's nothing in the grand scheme of the overall cinema. So the whole case, and now really tying this in, so she came out and said that he was physically abusive towards her, but now it's kind of come out and he's been suing her and taking her to court because he feels that he has grounds for defamation. So she published this op-ed, and in this op-ed she alleged that he committed all these various different crimes, and now they're going through the court proceedings, and basically the court of public opinion is on his side. Like, just based off that alone. And typically, this is a situation where like a woman comes out and accuses a man of doing like very heinous crimes. Usually, the court of public opinion is on the side of the woman in most cases. But in this case, like the evidence is so, in my opinion, the evidence is so damning that she's completely wrong. So I'll just give you some examples. They have her on audio tape saying, openly admitting to hitting him. Um, they have audio tape of her going out of her way to not only hit him, but like Johnny Depp's sister would book rooms and like book hotel trips with a separate room because she knew that Johnny was going to get into a fight with Amber and then run away. So like all these people who know him and people who've had interactions with him throughout the years, they all testified under oath, and they all testified how he's like a good guy, and he had like a rough childhood with his parents where his first thing that he would do whenever there's a conflict is like try to diffuse the situation. And if he wasn't able to diffuse the situation, he would like run away from the conflict. So he would like go to another room and like kind of hang out until the other person cooled down. So there's like literally video footage, there's audio footage of like Amber Heard being physically abusive towards Johnny Depp. Not only that, but she had like, they submitted pictures in this op-ed where she had like bruises on her face, and supposedly she says that she put on makeup to cover up the bruises. Well, she testified under oath, and in her deposition, she says that the makeup she used was like one specific brand, but that brand of makeup didn't come out until like 3 years later. So like they've literally caught her in these like this whole web of lies. And then also it came out that they got into an argument, a verbal disagreement, and he kind of went over to her, sat her down on the bed, and he's like, "Do not follow me. I'm leaving. I'm going to the other house." So he removed himself from the situation, which everyone who testified, so far has says that that's a very common thing that he does because he's not a violent guy and he doesn't really have any violent inclinations. Even so much so that his ex wife testified and said like he's never done anything bad to me. Like he's been a great guy. Like we just we weren't in love anymore, which is why we got divorced.
In order to like prove defamation for like a celebrity, right? You got to have something that's false, which that's questionable whether you could prove that that's false because you could point to how he did drugs and all these kinds of different drugs he drank and stuff like that. So was he truly aware of whether or not he slapped her? And I think that's why her defense is basically pushing like this narrative of mega pint and drugs, etc., and such like that, so that basically they can try and like say that he hit her when he was drunk or he did drugs and that he doesn't know. So they're trying to like dispute the
Yeah,
facts of the case in that regard. And then you have to basically publish it somewhere, which she probably did. She published it online, and then you
yeah.
have to
She
show
published it in the op-ed. Yeah.
yeah, you have to show negligence too, which is kind of hard to prove in this case. Like, did she negligently do it, or did she think it was true, whatever like that? Which comes back to the first part, is it true? So I think even though the court of public opinion is on her side, and they're coming around,
It,
they come
they're
around to
they're
think
on they're
like
on his side. Usually they're on the side
oh
of the
yeah,
woman, but
they're
the
on
court of public
his side.
opinion is very much on his side right now.
Right, that's what I meant to say. They're on his side, exactly. Even though the court of public opinion is on his side, I think he's gonna have a hard time proving that she's proving defamation and getting any kind of like monetary settlement for this. It's kind of hard to prove like how many movie roles would he have gotten, how much would have got paid. Maybe he would have got paid less than his previous movies. Maybe he wouldn't have got cast for anything. Maybe he would have got cast for a lot of movies. It's kind of hard to prove in that sense. And so you don't know damages, you don't know any of this. And I think he was like requesting like a lot of, what was he requesting, 25 million, you said?
50 million. Yeah, he's suing her for
50
50.
million. Yeah. Like, does she even have 50 million to pay? Why is he even doing that? I think
I,
this case is just for show. He wants to like get his reputation back. I don't even think he wants any money at all. I think he's just trying to get his reputation back so he can get back into the movie business. And he's
I
doing the
think he
trial so
doesn't.
that it's public in that regard.
Yeah, I think that he doesn't really care. And he said in his opening testimony that basically the whole point was that uh, he wanted to clear the air about like any sort of thing that people previously thought about him, and to kind of show that he said he had a really hard problem with like some of the things that his kids went through particularly, and that kind of motivated him to like take the whole thing to court. But as far as what I was saying before, this was a good point I wanted to make, is that it's been conclusively proven that they got into this verbal dispute. He removed himself from the situation, went to one of his other houses, and then Amber was still staying in the house in which they had the verbal dispute. He has other people who live in the house with him, so they're in other rooms, so they know what's going on. They're there the whole time. So they go into the bedroom, and then on his side of the bed, there's human fecal matter on the bed, which is hilarious because Amber Heard's like the defense, they didn't even try to dispute that. She got so pissed off that she like shit in the bed and on like his side of the bed. Like she literally got so mad at someone that she took a shit in the bed, which is kind of like hilarious. But as far as the Megapine thing and everything else, like it's hilarious because the defense, like obviously Johnny Depp was on the stand, and the defense was trying to say like, "Oh, you drink and you do drugs," and he's like, "Yeah, like I openly admit that." Like he doesn't hide the fact,
Yeah. Well, you
that
know
he
why they're
does
pushing that
things
narrative,
that.
right?
Mhm.
They're pushing that narrative because if you're drunk, you drink too much, you might pass out drunk and you might forget things. So they're saying, oh, you might not remember that you hit her, but she's claiming that you did. So you're not in the right state of mind to say you didn't hit her, and she's saying you did. So basically, we have proof on our side that you did do it. That's like their argument.
Yeah, I have to send you clips off stream about like this whole case because literally like it's to the point where I don't know if you saw this clip, it went super viral, but one of the defense attorneys put someone else on the stand, that was on their side, and the guy objected to his own question. Like he literally objected to his own question. I have to show you this off stream. Like the legal team that Amber Heard hired, I'm not, and I'd say this, you're gonna find this hilarious. She literally has like 5 lawyers. Like that's how bad these lawyers are. You have to see it. It's hilarious. But like the guy is just reading off headlines about things that Johnny Depp did, and he's just reacting to it. And the guy's like, "Did I read that correctly?" And Johnny Depp's like, "Yes." And the guy will keep reiterating, "Did I read that correctly? Did I read that correctly?" And then Johnny Depp's like, "Oh wow, you read that very well. You read that very well." And then he's like, "Oh yeah, you read that very well. Maybe you should read the article or whatever. It's actually a good article." And it's just funny because like they're just throwing out these like headlines that are like blatant fucking hit pieces on Johnny Depp, and he's just reacting to it in a way that's like there's something about him like where he's able to kind of you got to really watch some clips of this because he really handles it like for someone who has never been to court. Like you would be impressed with like his presence on the stand. They also had a forensic psychologist come out and testify, and she basically testified that um her test, like according to her test that she performed, Amber Heard came back as someone with like psychopathic tendencies and like tendencies of an abuser.
Well, she was like, I saw her like smiling a lot when she was being questioned and stuff like that, which was it looked like a crazy person. But another thing that I wanted to bring up, because you got to bring up some counterpoints to basically support her to balance out, I don't know, balance out the conversation. But Johnny Depp, like one of Johnny Depp's witnesses, his friend that was on the stand, he basically this guy didn't work. He like made no money, and basically Johnny Depp paid him just to sit at home and like be an artist because the guy wanted to be an artist so bad and he wanted to paint and etc. And Johnny Depp told his friend like, oh, if you want to be an artist and you want to paint, I'll give you this amount of money per month. Pursue your passion. I just want you to be happy. And he would just hand him the money each and every month. So like that's a motivation to like lie for someone to understand if he did do it, etc. Because like of how good of a friend he was. That's just like a counterpoint. I don't know if they're gonna bring that up in the trial or not, but
Yeah, they
shows
tried.
credibility.
Yeah, they tried bringing that up. That was the bald gentleman with the goatee. Yeah, that guy, like, that's such a weird situation. Like, obviously, if someone like that testifying on someone else's behalf, you kind of have to take that with a grain of salt because of what you just said. But at the same time, it just goes to show, like Johnny Depp, the whole thing was that the guy was saying he met this guy through like a mutual friend that they both had, and he was like, oh, whatever. The mutual friend was like, oh, I'll show your paintings to Johnny Depp. And then Johnny Depp was like, oh, wow, I really like the painting. And the guy was like, hey, do you want to buy it at some point? And Johnny Depp was like, maybe. But he's like, I'll do you one better. And he's like, oh, I'll be like a patron of like your art. So he basically set up these like art shows where Johnny Depp would have people over his house, like very, wealthy and powerful people over at his house. And he would have all this guy's artwork there that, obviously he became friends with. And he was just a patron for him. So he said, oh, rather than buy like one painting from you, I'll literally build you like a career as like an artist. And that's kind of what he did. And then he also had like, Johnny Depp's like stupidly rich. So he owns like islands and penthouses and, different mansions. So he actually gave him, I think it was like penthouse 3 or something like that referred to in court, where he just gave the guy the penthouse and he's like, yeah, you could just use it as an art studio or whatever. Like, don't even worry about it. So the guy obviously went to live there for free. But yeah, that's someone like testifying on someone else's behalf. And, that's like you said, it has to be taken with a grain of salt because Johnny Depp literally changed his fucking life. But as far as the motivations, like obviously what this is years ago, like well before the trial was even a thought in anyone's head. It's just like he's a good, to me it seems like that's something that like a good person would do. Like he saw this guy and he's like, hey, I have a shitload of money, like whatever, I don't need all this money. And here's this guy like scraping by, and I think he's a good guy. Like, let me help him out. As far as like like he has no reason to just help like a random person other than like he just wants to, like he didn't really get anything out of that guy. Now, I mean, you could argue, yeah, like the guy's on the stand testifying, in favor of him, like that's good. But at the same time, like you can't think that he's thinking that far ahead of like, oh, when I'm in court one day, like I'm gonna need someone on my side. Like that's crazy to even think that far ahead.